Hello and welcome to your Astro Tarot forecast for the week of September 15th through the 21st. I'm Michelle Shea Walker and I'm here with your glass half full perspective on the week ahead. And if you're a paid subscriber or you tipped your reader this week, be sure to stick around until the end of the reading for the personalized reading drawing. So we're going to do something a little bit different this week, and maybe the weeks that follow as well. I would like to kind of start each of our weekly readings with sort of a theme or lesson that we're learning before we dive into the individual astrology and the cards. I've gotten a few requests from some of you to get sort of journal prompts or a way to kind of make the weekly forecast digestible and more digestible anyway. And my first recommendation for that is that you can always go back and watch on a daily basis rather than on a weekly basis. I personally do these recordings and kind of put them out there on Sunday to Monday. And then throughout the week, I've forgotten what I've said. So I'll drop in if I feel like I need a little extra advice for that day and see what the reading for the day said that I gave myself. And it's been kind of cool to see how those two things meet up in my real life. So that's always option number one, is to take it in digestible bits rather than all at once. But I also want to give sort of that, again, sort of food for thought for the week ahead, so that if you take nothing away from the individual day-to-day readings, or if you can't remember everything from the reading, I'm giving you a prepackaged lesson or thought to chew on for the week ahead that doesn't necessarily have to be broken down by day to day. So I've kind of looked at the forecast in the week ahead. I've looked at the cards for the week ahead. I've kind of felt into the energy, and there's a general theme that's coming up that's kind of approaching the entire week. And that tends to be how it goes. We just kind of break it down day to day normally, and we still will in this forecast as well. Also, I want to do a little side note and say, excuse the fact that I do have my air conditioner running. We've gone from the approach of autumn back into Indian summer, and it's pretty warm in my apartment. So I've got a cold beverage rather than my hot tea, and I've got the AC running. So hopefully the mic is not picking up on that, but I did not want to have to sweat through this reading. So our lesson for this week, which a little bit of a preview, has the bookend to our eclipse portal. So we're rounding out a lot of lessons that we're kind of cramming into this 2-week period. A lot of transformation has been happening since the lunar eclipse on the 7th, and it will continue to happen throughout this week. So it's kind of like, this is like our chance to kind of just like squeeze as much as we can out of these 2 weeks in regards to starting another chapter and ending the things that aren't serving us. Because of that, we're kind of in this limbo period, which tends to happen during these eclipse portals, where we're ready to kind of burst forward into change, but the world outside of us is kind of catching up with the energy. And this week in particular, I'm seeing that in regards to issues relating to the Cups cards. So, little Tarot 101, Cups cards are creativity, love, friendship, and intuition. So, there's definitely a theme this week of feeling like you're ready to jump forward into something new in regards to love or creativity for most of us, but also it could be into your intuitive development, and not quite seeing the reality outside of you lining up the way that you feel like it should be for you to be able to dive in. And we have a tendency to get discouraged when that happens, because we think, oh my gosh, like, is this not the path that I'm supposed to be taking? Is this not the person that I'm supposed to be interested in? Should I just give up on everything because I feel like I want to dive forward and the world is just against me? Is the thought process that can sometimes come forward in these moments. And I want to give you sort of the food for thought, the lesson to chew on this week, that the energy always gets there first. And the more energetically aware you become of yourself and your surroundings, of the cosmos, if you're on this channel, you're constantly becoming more and more aware of the energy around you. And when that happens, you tend to get the clues a little bit faster than sometimes the people around you, or just the, three-dimensional reality that we live in. And it's not that you're doing it wrong, because you're actually getting a grace period of a greater preview of what's to come so that you can energetically and emotionally prepare yourself for that. But when we're used to having not as much of an energetic preview and not being quite as aware, we've grown accustomed to feeling a feeling and having the thing occur. And when you become more and more intuitive, more and more psychic, more and more in touch with the energy, those previews can be way further ahead of what you've grown accustomed to in your life before you became more aware. Case in point, it took me a very long time after I roll my intuitive awakening. There's no good term for it except for that overused term. But whenever I started awakening more to my intuition, I went through my Reiki training, it cleared up my chakras, gave me more awareness of everything. I started realizing that I was having these sort of premonitions or feelings about like things that were going to come together. And as someone that was becoming more and more accustomed to being able to translate those feelings, I knew what felt like a hell yes and what felt like a hell no. And I would get these hell yes feelings about a situation or a relationship or a creative project. And I was so used to having less delay between that hell yes and the world lining up with that I was ready for it to happen right then and right there. And I really learned through the process of very painful elimination and experience that usually I'm like 6 to 9, maybe even a year ahead of when that energy is actually going to be ready. But the universe is giving me a preview. And because I'm so attuned to what's happening in the energy around me and within myself, I'm getting that preview so much earlier than I would have been used to in my life before. Because in my life before, I wasn't even that in touch with what I would now call my intuition. It was just kind of just happy accidents and flying by the seat of my pants. And it wasn't until I started really developing those practices, that awareness, the energy within me, that it became something that I knew as psychic intuition, whatever you want to call it. And it does take an adjustment period to be okay with that delay. And if you have a lot of fire in your chart, I respect and honor that you're probably not that okay with that delay, because you do want to take action on the things that you're feeling passionate about. But the beauty that I've learned from this experience of feeling that something's right for you and not having it line up immediately is that you get to bring a better awareness to the direction you're wanting to grow, to be even more ready for that opportunity, that relationship, what have you. So think of it as a buffer period in a good way rather than in a cursed way, not in a way that you have to feel like you are being held back from your dreams. It's you're getting extra opportunity to prepare. And I feel like a lot of times we're so used to our instant gratification in society, and we're also so used to kind of the procrastination, last minute deadline type mindset that extra time doesn't feel like a luxury for a while. But when you start to be able to utilize that extra time, you can grow the projects, the ideas, the relationships that you're manifesting even bigger and better than you could have thought possible at the moment that you realized that the energy was in alignment for you. So a good example of this is if you are manifesting a relationship and you encounter an individual or an energy that feels like a hell yes to you, and it feels like, yes, this is what I've been trying to call into my life, I'm ready, let's dive in, and the other person is resistance, or the world around you is putting obstacles in your way, think of it as an opportunity to really evaluate and grow into the type of person that you want to be for this relationship. And I do use the word relationship because sometimes what happens is your intuition will present you with an individual that gives you that hell yes, this is what I want feeling. And then they give you the delay and you still focus on the feeling that you wanted to manifest in this relationship. And yes, it's probably tied to a certain individual. But if you can hold it loosely, you start to kind of tweak your life and tweak your experience and tweak yourself and be like, okay, well, when this partnership arrives, what do I want to be doing with this person? What type of person do I want to be coming into this relationship? Do I have anything that I want to get like sort of my ducks in a row before this occurs so that I can set it up for the most beautiful possible incarnation of that alignment? And as you start to move those things around, because you have this buffer period to do so, you may find one of two things happens. You grow and you expand more into what you actually want from a relationship. And you start to realize that the person that triggered that inspiration isn't actually in alignment with where you're headed or where you now are. And that's okay. That's not a like greater than or less than. It's you've realized through this process that you want X, Y, and Z, and you are now aligning yourself with X, Y, and Z. And that person may not be in alignment with those same goals. So as you do the best for this buffer period and you let yourself grow without feeling like you need to tie really tightly to any specific outcome, but still using the inspiration of what you thought you wanted because of this individual coming into your life, you will find that either you both align, you come together, because they're probably going through a buffer period as well of aligning their life, whether they're doing it consciously to attach it to you or not. And if they are in alignment with where you're headed and where you're going and where you actually have decided that you want to be, things will line up when the timing is right and the energy levels are right. But if they are not, if you had some sort of like fantasy projected upon this person, or if this person just had a different path in life and they were growing in a different direction than you were, you'll actually call in an even better match for what it is that you want in your partnership. And if you didn't have that buffer period to become the person that you wanted to be in a relationship and really evaluate those qualities that you're looking for, you might have ended up in the wrong situation. And I saw a quote the other day that was so lovely, and I don't know if I'm going to butcher it or not, but it was something along the lines of, there's nothing, like if you think you're lonely outside of a relationship, it's nothing compared to the loneliness of being in the wrong relationship, because then you're still feeling alone, but someone's in your space. And so there's this feeling of saving yourself from the wrong path, the wrong choice, the wrong connection. And that is the way that things start to happen, the more in touch with your intuition and yourself and your goals that you become. And I am not going to lie to you, it does become a bit of an energy adjustment. You do get used to spending more time alone and having people kind of fade in and out of your life a little bit more as you continue to just shift your energy. But you have to be doing it for yourself. You have to be doing it for your ideal version of who you want to be in your business, in your creativity, in your relationships, in your life as a whole. What is your mission statement in all of these areas? And the more that you continue to allow yourself to align with that mission statement, the more you become a magnet for energy that matches that, which may or may not be the person, the circumstance, the individual, the idea that triggered the inspiration to grow in that direction. So that is our food for thought for this week as we move towards the other half of this eclipse portal. So this could apply to all things cups: intuition, relationships, creativity. So I think for most of it, it's going to be relationships and or creativity. They could be both as well. These could be two themes that are kind of interwoven through these two areas of your life. So let's dive in to the day-to-day astrology and tarot cards. First up, we have Monday, September 15th. It is Venus sextile Mars is our one astrology of the day. Venus is in Leo, Mars is in Libra. So we have this little more combustible energy that can happen with a fire sign and an air sign coming together in a supportive kiss of good luck, which is what I like to call the sextiles. or having a cup of tea, I think is what I usually say for the sextiles. The trines, I usually say a kiss of good luck. So they're coming together and they're conspiring to create a little bit of combustion in the areas of our creative life or our love life. So there could be some sort of spark that happens on Monday. And this is later Monday night, so it could bleed into Tuesday as well. This is 10:03 p.m. Central Standard Time. But there could be a bit of a spark on Monday that leads you towards more of this growth, development, and clarification of what it is that you want in regards to love, creativity, and passion. Moving into, well, let me get my card. Getting ahead of myself. The card for the day is very appropriate for the energy that we're allowing here. And it is the Queen of Swords reversed. So the Queen of Swords upright is setting really strict boundaries with your social circle and the people that you allow in your space. The reversed coming through this week, the particular read that I'm getting from this card is that we are being called to slightly soften our boundaries, to not be quite so rigid with what we allow into our relationships and or our creative life. So this could be something that's coming in that's creating a little spark of passion that you wouldn't discover if your boundaries were up in a really rigid way. And, we still have self-worth, we still honor ourselves. This is not like settling for anything. This is not, accommodating someone that's not supposed to be in our life or that's toxic for us. This is just being more open and curious to where a situation might lead. And this could be a situation that's new, or it could be a situation from your past. Again, take care of yourself when it comes to people that you know that you don't want in your life anymore for one reason or the other. But if there's kind of someone that's just like a question mark that you would have normally written off, or a creative idea that comes to mind that you're like, that's just, I've never done anything like that, so I'm going to brush it aside. Allow for an energy to surprise you in regards to this spark of passion that could be coming forward with Venus and Mars. And again, it could be an actual interaction, or it could be just an idea and inspiration that comes to you regarding a creative project or regarding a person. You could just be like, suddenly I'm thinking of this person that I haven't thought of in a long while, and we kind of lost touch, or we had a little bit of a falling out, but I don't really know why. And just crack the door open is what this is saying. Don't shut it completely on whatever it is that comes forward and feels a little aligned with passion on Monday. Tuesday, we have an interesting energy because it's kind of a little waffle back and forth with Chiron and a couple planets. So we have Venus trine Chiron, which means that they're coming together in support of one another in a lucky way. And then we have Mars opposite Chiron, which means that they're they're in opposition. And so they're not really working well together. So Venus trine Chiron, we have both in fire signs, Leo and Aries. Mars is in Libra, and Chiron is, again, in Aries. So this is more of an energy of your heart and your creative energy, more like the softer divine feminine energy of your life is more in support of your healing at this time than your Mars passion side. So basically what that means, like if we were to take this metaphor or this storyline as it just like the basic baseline level that we could translate this, I could say that there'd be a possibility that on Monday there's a person that sparks passion that comes into your life. And on Tuesday, the message is build the relationship rather than hopping right in the sack, because it feels like there's definitely an element of softness and love and creating something in a way that feels more sustainable, as opposed to on basing it on like a fiery burst of passion. So that's what's happening on Tuesday. And again, like we're just using the baseline metaphor for relationships. I think it's for a lot of us a creative project, in that there's like a quick way to the end and there's a slow burn. And we're going to want to choose the slow burn on Tuesday to start to build towards whatever it is this goal is. The card of the day is the Strength card reversed. So the read I'm getting on this is willpower. That it may take a little extra self-restraint, awareness to know when to dive into the pool and know when to wait for it to be filled with lovely, ideal temperature water. And there is a time and a place for diving into the pool. This is not the day. And I also don't want you to be discouraged by that, because I think that there's really something beautiful to be said about this slow build. And I think by slow build, we just mean it's not immediate gratification. I think that this could be, well, and again, our overall message of the week is that message of sometimes you get the impulse to do something, the hell yes feeling to do something way earlier than the energy around you is actually aligned for you to do so. So take that message and apply it to this day. This is not so much about making that idea happen right now or that relationship happen right now. It's about taking the idea of what this is inspiring and figuring out how to make a slow build to it, having the willpower not to try to force something or to dive into something that's not ready, and to really solidify what the actual reality of what you're manifesting looks like. This also comes back to a metaphor that I always like to give when it comes to manifesting, which is that, like, you want to think of manifesting as like filling out an order for something online. And one of the first things you want to do is you want to make sure you're really clear on your manifestation. So like if you're filling out, like, I mean, this is obviously going to be like an Amazon order. Let's say it's like an Etsy order with a lot of like specifications that you're having a custom made piece of art or something like that. And there's several different fields you have to fill out. You have to pick the colors, you have to pick the size, you have to pick the materials, you have to, like send a special note message of what it is that you want the artist to create for you. Like whatever it is, you want to really fully, or like having a customized piece of furniture would be another option of this. And you want to make sure that you've checked all of those boxes with what you truly want. You're not just going to let some default setting be sent to you because you forgot one of the fields was there. So that's what this in between, this buffer period that we're talking about this week is about. It's about making sure that you're really sure that what you're ordering is what you want. And that's in like really finding the clarity and what it is that you're trying to call in. And sometimes that's a trial and error process of having a situation happen and being like, oh, don't want that again. Let's tweak that order a little bit. So that's what this willpower and this sort of self-restraint coming in on Tuesday is. It's not about not getting what you want. It's about getting clarity on what you want. Moving into Wednesday, we have the moon moving into Leo, a little more fiery energy on our internal emotional life, a little more dramatic for better or for worse. And then in the evening hours, we have Mercury in Virgo opposite Saturn in Pisces. So these two planets are not really supporting one another at this time. Mercury is our planet of communication. Saturn is our sort of like life lessons, our school marm with a ruler is how I always see her. And these two planets are coming together to kind of remind us that communication isn't always necessary. That was another thing that I kind of had come up for our overall theme. So if you're watching this, this is sprinkling in along the way, as it should, because the overall theme was about all of these day-to-day lessons. This is about recognizing that with that slow burn, sometimes things get communicated with time when the alignment is right. And that's on both sides. It's about you noticing when the right time to communicate something is, honoring when something's blocking you from communicating, because roadblocks are usually like redirections or timeline like buffers to get us to the right moment at the right time. And then also recognizing that other people might be delaying communication because of energy alignments as well. Like that the universe is stalling a communication from someone outside of you so that the energy is more aligned when they actually do communicate. So that's what I'm getting from that. The card of the day is a Lover's card reversed. So this, if we are talking about a relationship this week, if you are one of the individuals, that's the baseline metaphor that I'm using for a lot of these, and there's like a person that's come into your life or come back into your life, that there's a little spark and you're like, oh, I don't know, like, let me get really clear on what I want. Let me let this help me clarify what I want. There might be a little bit of like an inverse of the Lover's energy, which basically just means that it could be a really divine union and combination. Or if we're talking about a creative project, it could be a really divinely aligned creative project or something that you're working towards. But right now, it's the energy is turning inward. It's being more self-reflective. In the relationship metaphor, this is you asking yourself, like, am I treating myself and showing up for myself the way that I want to partner to? Am I aligning my life to the best of my ability to the life that I see for myself with an ideal partner? And I mean, this could be, it could be a whole host of things. It's really evaluating, especially in the relationship metaphor, it's evaluating what it is you think a partner is going to add to your life, especially if you are the type of person that's really kind of grasping for a relationship, which I don't think most of my viewers are. We're all kind of in a good like place. But if you are in a space right now where you do feel like you're kind of grasping for a relationship or grasping for someone's attention, what do you think you're going to get from that? Like, what is your end goal with that desire? What do you feel like you're missing in your life that's going to come into your life when this person arrives? And it could be something as simple as companionship. But the way that we turn that on its head and turn it inward is we ask ourselves, okay, how can I be my best companion? Or if we want to go a little outside of ourselves, like, how can I make sure I'm surrounding myself with good companionship? And I'm not just sitting around and waiting for this one ideal person to come in and be my main ultimate companion. Like, how am I creating companionship for myself, or fill in the blank there, whatever it is that you think the relationship is going to give you, how are you creating that for yourself in a way that feels really authentic and really aligned? How are you showing up for yourself in the way that you would want a relationship to show up for you? Same thing can be applied for a creative project. When there's a delay in a creative project or an opportunity that we're trying to manifest, what do we think that that's going to bring into our lives? Why are we so desperate for that to be successful or that to come in? And how can we find at least the feeling of that now in this present moment? Because sometimes if it's like a job opportunity or something, you're like, oh, I wanted to come into my life because I would like to have more money. I would like to be financially successful. But like, if that's the case, like, how can you feel successful? And how can you embody that feeling of success before the opportunity comes in, or while you're in this buffer period where it's on its way, but it's just not quite there to you? Moving on Thursday, we have Mercury moving into Libra. We also have Mercury in Libra, opposite Neptune in Aries. And then after that, in the later evening hours, Mercury in Libra trine Uranus and Gemini. So there's a lot happening with Mercury as it's moving into Libra. So let's talk about Mercury in Libra. Mercury is a planet of communication, technology, communication. I like that I stalled on that one. And Libra is very what do I want to say? Judicious is what wanted to come up, because I'm seeing like the Libra, like the judicial scales, the justice scales. They're about balance. They're about creating balance in their health and wellness and their life. They're about creating balance within their partnerships. They're very dualistic, focused energy. They are the sign of partnership. They represent the seventh house of our partnerships, and partnerships can be romantic. They can be business related. They can be platonic, but they're about learning how to exist in pairs and partnerships. And part of that is the Libra tendency to want to be the mediator and to make sure that everyone's happy. and to make sure that everything feels balanced. So when we've got Libra and Mercury, it is a good time for like negotiations and mediations and creating those balanced outcomes. However, if you're in the wrong mindset or in the wrong energy, it can lend itself very much into people pleasing and only saying what people want to hear rather than really speaking your truth. So I think that's what we're having with this sort of interesting energy with the outer planets. We're playing around with like, what are our dreams? And how are we communicating those? Because there's a little bit of out of balance with that happening with Uranus and Aries and opposite Libra and Mercury and Libra. And then, Neptune and Aries is the dreaminess. And then Uranus and Gemini opposite or trine Mercury and Libra is a little more lucky in regards to creating change around the way that we're communicating and the things that we're asking for. And I actually think that this might be a good day for negotiations and really creating that change and creating that shift, bleeding into Friday a little bit because the Mercury trine Uranus aspect is happening at 11:52 p.m. Central Standard Time. But we still can say that it's influencing the day of as well. And the card of the day is the Two of Cups, also reversed. So we have nothing but reverse cards for the first 4 days of the week. And the first two are about our boundaries, our strength, our willpower. The second two are about our partnerships, our relationships, and the things that we're calling in to interact with our world in a way that feels creatively aligned. So this is all reverse energy. So we're trying to like line up with something that's not quite ready internally before the external opportunity can really come into play. So we're making sure we're filling out that order form properly. And this one in particular, while Two of Cups can be relationships and, romantic and platonic and all of the above, I am getting a strong indicator of like that communication theme coming through here. Like, again, like it's like a mediation, it's a negotiation. I'm getting this image of like these two people negotiating, but because it's reversed, it's a little funkier. It's a little bit harder to figure out what everyone wants. And that might be because with Mercury and Libra, maybe one or both parties are really just saying what they think the other person wants to hear rather than saying what they actually want. So your goal on Thursday, especially if you're going into any sort of negotiation or mediation or, anything that involves trying to appease both parties and get everyone what they desire, make sure you're actually stating what you desire. And this could be on a larger scale where you're like negotiating a contract. It could be on a smaller scale where like you're just with your partner and you need to speak up about something that you need. This is definitely an important energy though, as we move through this transformation. So it's kind of like the last test. I mean, there's never a last test because we're going to constantly be testing, growing, and all of that stuff. But like in this little eclipse portal, this feels like it's like the last little bit that we're making sure is in the right alignment in being able to speak our truth, being able to ask for what we want. Because as one of my favorite influencers on Instagram, creator of the Bad Bitch Affirmation Deck, Gabriella Rosie says, if you don't ask, you don't get. So if you don't ask, you don't get. Ask for what you want. Okay. Moving into Friday, we have Venus moving into Virgo. There's a couple other things happening, but we're going to focus on that for the most part because Venus is going from Leo, where I'm a Venus in Leo. We're flamboyant and dramatic and colorful and flashy and loving the compliments, loving the social interactions, to Venus in Virgo, which is a little more serious-minded. It's almost like, I mean, it's very appropriate for the season because it's like we're moving from that sort of like summer fling, let's just have fun energy, again, be it in a romantic relationship or your life in general, into a more studious, planned out, goal-oriented energy in regards to Venus things, which are our love and creativity. So again, the overall theme of this week is Cups matters, love, creativity, and intuition. And we're being called into a more focused mindset. So instead of just flitting around and kind of having our fun here and there with our creative projects and with our relationships, the AC is making a weird noise. We are now kind of strapping in and being like, okay, like where do I want to channel the most of my energy? Like I gotta get serious about something or someone. So what is it that I'm gonna get serious about? Because it's the season for it. It's the time. The card of the day is our first upright card, which is the Six of Wands upright. And this does indicate that there could be sort of a position of being more visible in your life. And that could be, again, depending on what kind of reading you're reading this as, maybe you're more visible in your dating world and you have lots of options, but you have to like figure out like which one of these is the best option, which one of these matches the thing that I filled out on my order from the best in this moment. And how can I like really commit to that for a little bit and explore it? It also could be that you're a little more visible in regards to things that you're creating, things that you're trying to call into your life. So opportunities can find you a little bit easier. And so you want to make sure that you really know what kind of opportunities that you're wanting to channel your energy into. This is definitely an energy of not taking every opportunity that knocks on your door, because you're definitely going to get overwhelmed. There's definitely a feeling of like, it's like a feast or famine energy. Like I feel like maybe it's felt a little like a famine for a bit. And now that you're like being called to zero in on one thing, several things are coming to your door. And because you've been in this famine energy for a while, you kind of want to take all of them because you're like, oh my gosh, there's like a scarcity mindset. And like, I need all of this because there's been so little for so long. And you really want to be selective and mindful of the things that really align with how you want to spend the time, who you want to spend your time with, where you want to go in life. Again, I say, what is your mission statement? Where are you trying to end up? And which of these things being presented to you is actually going to get you there? Because otherwise, you're going to spread yourself too thin. And the one opportunity that you really should be focusing on and committing to is going to not end up as good as it could have been because you've spread yourself out. So do not apologize for saying no to some things, and do not fear. Don't have that scarcity mindset. Don't say yes to something just because it's there. I don't know how else to say that. That's the best thing that I can say. Don't say yes to something just because it's there. Say yes to something because you ordered it and it's what you want, or it's at least going to get you to what you want in a more logical way. If you're getting a job opportunity or a relationship opportunity that doesn't look anything like and doesn't have any connection to where you want to be, it's time to get serious. We can't have that Venus and Leo flitting about for no reason. We have to commit to the things that are going to get us towards our goals. And that is Friday's energy. Saturday, we have Venus square Uranus. So Venus is in Virgo, as we just covered. Uranus is in Gemini. They're not playing well together. They're not getting along right now, which basically just means that creativity, romance, change, those things are not supportive of one another on this particular day. So this could be a good day for a rest because we've done a lot of work in the beginning of the week on aligning with the creativity, really making sure things are moving forward, really getting clear on our goals, answering opportunities that come our way. And this is kind of a good day to pause. And the card supports it as well because our card is another upright card because we're done with the reverse cards this week, the Seven of Cups. So interestingly, the reverse cards usually mean sort of like a stall in action or an internal reflection. And this one's upright, but the normal meaning of this card is kind of a stall in action and a little bit of reflection. But it's a fun reflection, in my opinion. The Seven of Cups is big daydreaming energy. So while Venus is square Uranus on Saturday, I think it's a really good day. And maybe it's because you got some like offers coming in on Friday and you need to answer them by Monday. Saturday is a good day to kind of mull everything over and picture where each one of these opportunities on your plate could take you, and ask yourself which one of those outcomes you actually want. So again, it's like ordering from a universal catalog. Like, picture this. I know these cups have like a variety of things in them, but like, picture this girl as like at the counter of Baskin Robbins and she's choosing her favorite flavor. Like, there's a lot of flavors in front of you, but you're going to choose one. So feast your eyes on the menu and ask yourself what you really want. What are you craving right now in your life, and what is going to get you to where you want to be? That's Saturday. And then Sunday, we have the grand finale of the week, which is our Virgo new moon eclipse. We are at the other end of our little 2-week eclipse portal energy. And I don't know about you, but I looked at the calendar and realized that this was happening this Sunday. And I thought, I really have had a lot of stuff shifting over the past week and a half. No, just week from the time that I'm recording this. So since the Pisces full moon on the 7th, I didn't realize so much shifted over the course of the last week. But looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, this thing lined up and this idea came in and this opportunity came in. And like, there's so much energy that's shifting around during this portal. And we really need to make sure we're taking advantage of it. So if you don't look back on last week and notice those little things of like, oh, wait, this thing fell into place, or this idea came in, or I got inspired to do this, or I started working with this coach on this new thing in my life, then this week is your opportunity to kind of like pay attention. Because it's not so much that they're not there. It's just that you may not have been paying attention to those divine impulses. So this week, the energy is going to cram it in for you. And by Sunday, we're going to hit the end of this 2-week eclipse portal that we've been in. And we're going to come out the other side with a different version of our path ahead of us. And I guarantee if you've been paying attention to your intuition and your impulses and the hell yeses and the hell nos, it's going to be better. It's going to be a catapult forward into something that you desire. But that doesn't mean that it hasn't been a rough 2 weeks. So eclipses, not a manifesting energy. Anytime there's an eclipse on a new moon, while we normally manifest on a new moon and wait for the things to come true 6 months later, do not try to call in specific things on an eclipse new moon. I have an experience with doing some manifestation work on an eclipse new moon, and I can guarantee you that you will call something in. It's just not going to be exactly what you ordered. You're going to forget to click one of the boxes is basically what happens with eclipse manifesting. So while we have been getting really clear on our desires this week, and that doesn't mean that you can't like say yes to opportunities and things like that. But I'm just saying, like, if you do normally do like a magic work of like writing out your wishes and like handing it over to the universe and all of that, we don't need to do that on this Sunday. We're just going to let everything lie. We're just going to let the things that were already in progress keep moving forward. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to like indulge in the opportunities that are being presented to you. Like, that's not what we're avoiding. We're avoiding like really future tripping on like what it is that we want 6 months from now. Cause that's going to be, I honestly, I think the reason we don't manifest on eclipse during eclipses is because so much changes during the eclipse that I don't think you have enough clarity to know what you want 6 months from now. So you're going to be in a whole other life 6 months from now. And the universe is like, just see, just watch it unfold. Just wait. And you'll call something in, and you don't need to be the one that's like sort of in charge of it right now. The card of our day for this eclipse is the Page of Cups upright. So this is our step into our creative, intuitive relationship, love, power. If you don't know, the suits in tarot where we have page, knight, queen, king are kind of a progression through learning into expertise of a certain area. So with the cups, this is us becoming an apprentice of our creativity, of our relationship goals, of our intuition, and being okay with not knowing everything. This is especially true. I mean, it's true across the board for all of those things, but I feel like this is especially true for a lot of us that are watching, that are working on new creative projects. This is kind of that energy of the artist, like not having their talent catch up with them just yet. like having such big, grand, creative ideas and then not having the skill set to back it up, and just needing to show up every day and continuing to create and continue to practice and continuing to clarify, and knowing that eventually one day your skill set will show up in the way that you can complete your ideas. And then you'll be ready for the next level, and you'll get even bigger ideas, and your skill set won't be developed enough for those. And then you'll continue to show up and you'll develop. And that's the path of creativity, of just knowing that you have big ideas that you probably aren't talented enough to do just yet, but you just show up and you do them anyway, and you keep getting better and you keep getting better and you keep getting better. And one day your skills will align with your vision. So that is our week. This is the portion of the reading where we do a personal reading draw. So know that I do always offer one-on-one readings over on my website, michelleshaywalker.com. You can do tarot, you can do past lives, you can do astrology, you can even do a Reiki session with me. So if you're ever wanting to invest in a real one-on-one connection for 40 minutes to an hour, those are always available. However, I like to offer this up as a little incentive for those, or a reward for those that decide to support this channel, which, P.S., speaking of creative projects, this will also be a Substack that's supporting another creative project, a YouTube channel that I'm starting, I think the Friday of this week of this reading. So if all goes well, you will be getting an announcement for that from me. But do know that your contributions to this Substack are really important to me. They support not only my ability to show up and give these readings on a weekly basis for like almost an hour at a time every Sunday, but they also support other creative projects and other things that I want to do and other information that I want to give to you. And this YouTube channel is basically me giving you information on how to bring the energy alignment that I practice in these type of readings into your physical space and your home decor. So thank you for those that are supporters. If you want to support those projects, please feel free to become a Substack subscriber. You can do it and just turn off all the notifications if you don't want to get the emails. But if you do want to get the emails, always love that for you. I'm welcoming it. I like knowing people are watching. And anytime someone does become either an annual or a monthly paid subscriber, they automatically get entered into this weekly drawing. So a little thank you to everyone that's on this list. We have, first up, Holly, who won last week's reading. So she's not on this wheel of this spin, but she is a paid subscriber, and I thoroughly appreciate that energy. My other paid subscribers I would like to thank this week are Tracy, Francis, Amanda, Sonia, Caitlin, and Jane. And of those names, we're going to find out who wins our personal reading. Caitlin, congratulations, you won a reading. We are going to actually use a different deck for this reading. Let me take a sip of my kombucha, because I felt called to pull a deck out that I haven't used in forever. So there's some meaning in that right away. And the card deck that I pulled out is the Moon Child Tarot. So this one doesn't get in rotation very often because most of my card decks are over in my bar cart because I don't drink. So they sit in the little area that you would normally put bottles. And this one's too big to fit into those compartments. So it lives in another area. And I got the strong impulse that I needed to go get this deck out today. So there is something in the imagery. There is something in the message and the softness behind these cards that is here for you. I do think that there is something with the moon being a maternal energy. There's sort of a Cancerian vibe coming forward in these cards. So all of that applies right away. And we're going to see what kind of past, present, future cards want to fall out for Caitlin and anyone else who decides to stay and watch this reading, because we are all a part of a collective. And sometimes the personal readings also resonate with other individuals. So ooh, we have some cards that like feel like they almost want to come out and then they're not quite. This is interesting shuffle energy. Oh, okay. We got one. I'm going to go that way. That one feels like it wants to come out too. So we're going to do those two for the past and present. Haven't flipped them over yet, so I don't know what they are. That one's stuck in my hand. So let's do that one. That was kind of how the cards of the week came out this week. They didn't necessarily fall out, but they just kept sticking out at odd angles, and I just felt called to pull them out. So, Caitlin, your past, present, future are all upright. The Six of Cups is your recent past card. So I'm going to just hold this up because I do feel like maybe this imagery holds some resonance somewhere. So I'll let you be able to view the card while I talk about it. The Six of Cups is about nostalgia and about looking back at the past in a way that has fondness to it, that has softness to it, that has healing to it, and that also maybe brings clarity in something that might have been important to you in the past that's missing from your current situation. So using nostalgia to add to your life is really what's been happening in the recent past. It could be that you've reconnected with previous relationships or hobbies or pastimes. It could be that there's a dream from your childhood or from even a few years ago that is coming forward again, that maybe it's time to revisit because you've come through and changed and transformed during this little eclipse portal. And it's definitely a feeling of healing and forgiveness of anything in the past that doesn't feel worthy of that nostalgia. So that's the recent past. The present is the Nine of Swords, which is definite eclipse-worthy shadow work. The Nine of Swords is often depicted as a person sitting up in bed late at night with like swords sticking through their head. Sort of that sort of internal struggle, worry, keeping you up at night, trying to figure things out before they're ready to be figured out, which is big for our theme this week of like not trying to rush the process and allowing yourself to continue to align to things, even when it feels like they should have happened already or you should have it figured out. This is definitely a reminder of that initial message of sometimes you might feel the impulse or the desire for something to occur, and your own energy and the energy all around you is still lining up for that. So not having something occur does not mean that you failed. It does not mean that your intuition was wrong. It just means that your intuition was so strong that it was a little ahead of the game. And you are now in that buffer period where you get to ask yourself, okay, if this is what I'm calling in, what does that version of me look like and feel like and act like? And how can I incorporate that energy into my life? How can I be even more ready for the manifestations that I'm calling in by using this period of in between to my advantage? It's also like, please, like, purge your thoughts before you go. If you're having trouble sleeping, do like a brain dump and a journal or even an audio message. But it does feel like if sleep is an issue with the Nine of Swords, which it often is, it's just because you're worrying too much, you're thinking too much, you're letting those thoughts spin out of control. And sometimes simply writing it all out without editing yourself will get them out of your brain and onto the page, and they're less likely to affect you. I love the final card. Divine Wisdom. So this is why I was called to do this deck, because this is a card that's added into this deck. It's not normally in the tarot cards. And because of that, I'm actually going to go to the guidebook and either read the full description or just see what jumps out at me that feels like a necessary thing to read. But right away, I want to say that it feels like your intuition is up leveling. Taurus, grounded, doesn't get enough credit. Intuition is leveling up. And yeah, I think you are going to find a lot of things where you are kind of ahead of the game with what it is that you think is going to happen or what it is you think should happen. See, I don't even know where to find this card in the deck, in the book, because it so rarely comes up. So give me just a moment to flip through all the major arcana and see if I can find. Okay, so there's shadow work. Divine Wisdom. Okay. So the floodgates are beginning to open. As the seated wisdom of the ancient mysteries are now pouring through, this is the divine knowledge that exists within your cellular memory and the power of your own unique story. You may be experiencing a breakdown of the artificial structures that wish to fall by the wayside as new forms of wisdom stir within your heart. This may also indicate a deeper sense of awakening as you connect with various forms of teachings, lineages, or philosophies that call out from beyond this lifetime. Divine wisdom comes as a sacred reminder of the sovereign truth that rests within you, waiting to be reclaimed and activated now. Depicted in this key as the representation of Isis, the lunar goddess of 10,000 names, we are reminded of the cycles of time that have birthed many sages, mystics, and ascended guides who have also filled our collective narrative with magic and mystery. Within the centuries and millennia, their ancient wisdoms have been transcribed and passed on through preservation and memory, and still today we hear the echo of that voice. It lives on within you, in your dreams, in your heart, and throughout the journeys you have taken through countless incarnations. Perhaps you are experiencing visions, dreams, or sparks of imagination that call you to another time and place. Perhaps you are feeling inspired to fulfill a deeper mission at this time. We are being invited to retrieve the hidden keys and shift our wisdom into a new field of infinite possibilities. In this card, these energies are presented with the staff of Thoth, the ancient Caduceus, excuse pronunciations, a winged staff entwined with two serpents, representing merged duality and a direct link to our celestial origins. So that says a lot more, but those are the things that kind of immediately jump to my eye. I think that this is definitely, again, about your intuition awakening. It's about your mission statement. What is your mission statement? What are you here to do? It's about letting go of what you think everyone else wants from you and feeling into your heart's desires, feeling into all of the lessons that you've learned and eventually sharing them, which is a lesson that keeps coming up in your readings. This is just making it more grand and with a lot more energy behind it than the previous readings have. It's you have a really deep and divine purpose in this lifetime that you may not have given yourself enough credit for. I think maybe your intuition has called you into certain inspirations that you feel are maybe too big for the life that you've created, and the life that you've created is being up leveled to allow for those big dreams. I also get a little feeling both with the Six of Cups and with this divine wisdom talking so much about lineage and history and ancestors that this could be something that's kind of connected to breaking generational cycles, sort of a playing small habit that maybe extends through your line, either on your mother's or father's side, or maybe both, that you incarnated in this lifetime to break and do differently. So allow yourself to dream big and to follow those dreams, even if you think that they don't feel possible for you, because it feels like you're not giving yourself enough credit for how much space you can take up and how much influence you can have on the world around you. With all that said, I'm going to check what was at the bottom of the deck. The Five of Pentacles indicates that there's some financial balance that's at play in regards to this situation. So I would say if there's a stress around like following a dream or an inspiration that might upheave your financial stability, play it out. It feels like it really is like a leap of faith energy. I always see the scene from, I think it's Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's one of the Indiana Jones movies where he has to literally take a leap of faith and like step off a cliff where it looks like there's nothing there and his foot lands on a solid object that's just camouflaged. That's what this feels like. So if there's a financial hurdle that's holding you back from making this transition or taking this this leap, I do get the feeling that you will be caught. You will find your footing, but you do have to have that faith and go ahead and make the leap. Maybe not seeing that there is a ledge there to catch you. I hope that reading served you well, Caitlin, and anyone else who chose to watch. That was a really powerful reading. I do need to pull this deck out more often because I can feel sort of this whole ancestry coming forward. If ancient Egypt is calling to you, that might be a good thing to explore. Or I think you may have a copy of the Total Betty Goddess deck, and there's an Isis card in that deck as well. So you might want to work with the goddesses to kind of maybe do like a daily card pull. And see what they have to tell you or encourage you to do for that day. Thank you, everyone, for watching this long. Have a lovely end of your eclipse portal